Now I was afraid to sleep at night. I stood for a long time near the window, watching the dark figure walking every night under my window.
Hi. I want to tell you right away. I became a servant of Satan. In a previous life my name was Emma. One frosty day, I felt extremely ill, but decided to go to the hospital, although I should have called an ambulance. A snowstorm was whipping at my cheeks with all its might. Why did I have to go out in this weather? And why did I go out so late? I thought to myself. The sharp pain in my right side reminded me of the inflammation in my kidneys again. I had a referral to the hospital the day before yesterday, but my boss gritted his teeth when he heard about it. Emma, 4 times in 6 months. Fire me to hell. After swallowing another round of painkillers, I went to work. I somehow made it through the day, and in the evening, after returning from work, I came down with a fever and a sharp pain. My pride didn't allow me to call an ambulance. It was my ex-boyfriend's shift today. Danny was an ambulance paramedic. I decided to go on my own. I took a fever and drank another shot of painkillers, and headed to the bus stop, intending to at least catch a cab. It was late. Young lady, where are you going? Why can't you sit at home at this late hour and in this weather? A white bus stopped and an elderly, mustachioed driver got out. I told him I was in a hurry to the hospital, and he said he was on his way. I sat down on the nearest seat and relaxed, feeling the heat from the stove. The bus started, and it was only now that I noticed another passenger sitting in the farthest corner of the cabin. A man in a black hat and a gray raincoat. He looked at me, smirked, and turned away from me to the window. It was about a 40-minute drive to the hospital, and in this weather, maybe an hour. I snuggled up next to the stove and dozed off. I don't know how long I slept, but when I opened my eyes, I found a man in a hat sitting across from me, watching me carefully. What do you want? I asked in surprise. 47545. The man whispered to me. Pull over. I've arrived, he shouted to the driver. The bus stopped, and the man vanished into the white fog of a snowstorm. Who was that? I asked the driver. Just a random passenger like you, girl. We're almost there, he replied. After taking a few standard tests, I was immediately directed to a room. The hospital had recently been renovated, and now the rooms looked more like cheap hotel rooms. Bed, bedside table and chair. Burgundy curtains hung on the window, through which the moonlight streamed, filling the room with unpleasant reddish glare. I drifted off to sleep. I spent the next day crawling from room to room, undergoing various examinations. As a result, it turned out that I had the usual acute respiratory infection with minor kidney complications. At night I woke up because of the terrible cold. The window was open wide, and the curtains were fluttering in the wind in a frantic dance of purple flames. I jumped up and closed the window. But what I saw when I turned around made me freeze in horror. The same night bus passenger in the black hat and gray raincoat was standing in the room. I wanted to scream, but only a faint croak came out of my throat. The man began to approach me slowly, and I backed up until my back was against the wall. He stretched out his arms and grasped my neck tightly, lifting me above the floor. I was finally able to scream, kicking frantically against the wall. Footsteps were heard in the hallway, and the man let go of me. He opened the window and jumped out. The 2 nurses on duty burst into the room. There. He jumped me. Out. I wheezed, pointing my finger at the open window and grabbing my neck. The nurse looked out the window and smirked. In the morning I was summoned to the doctor's office and asked if I had tried to kill myself. Of course I was outraged and my answer was no. I think there's a bigger problem here than a cold with complications. The doctor muttered and told me to go to the procedures. Now I was afraid to sleep at night, standing for long periods near the window, watching the dark figure strolling under my window every night. It was him. I'm sure of it. Every time I called for the nurses to show them him, it was as if he had fallen through the earth. 47545. The strange numbers swirled in my head. What could they mean? Mary, we have completed your treatment, but we have to transfer you to another hospital. You have serious mental health problems. It's just an examination. Don't be frightened, the attending physician explained to me. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I was scared. The white room with no windows and almost no furniture. Why? I am not sick. Why doesn't anyone believe me? I shouted after the orderlies who brought me in. I sat down on my bed and cried. One thing that made me feel better was that he wasn't going to get in here. I don't know how long I slept, but when I opened my eyes, I saw him. A man in a black hat and a gray raincoat was standing in front of my bed, staring at me intently. What? What do you want from me? Go away. Leave me alone. Help. Help. I screamed with all my might. The man laughed and vanished into thin air. 2 orderlies ran into the room. He was here. I saw him. He was. I shouted to them. The orderlies grabbed me and tried to inject me with something, and I broke free, biting one of them hard on the arm. You bitch. The orderly grabbed me, wringing my hands. Jaeger, get a straitjacket. I started kicking and lashing out even harder, screaming and swearing at the orderlies. They tied me up with a shirt and gave me a sedative. I fell asleep. He stood leaning over me and smiling. Unable to move, I just lay there crying. Go away. Please go away. I whispered. 47545. The man in the black hat and gray cloak muttered and closed his arms around my neck. I closed my eyes and fell into a void. It was cold. It was so cold in here. I was lying on a large metal table, wrapped only in a thin sheet. Where am I? I heard footsteps and voices in the hallway. It's a pity about the girl. She was so young. I never could determine the cause of her death, the woman said to the tall, gloomy man. The 2 men in white coats were heading in my direction, not paying any attention to me. They stopped beside me, looking at the table where I had just been lying. I turned around and froze in horror. My own body was on the table. A woman in a bathrobe covered my face with a sheet and put a tag with the number 47,545 on my big toe. Now I live in another dimension, but they gave me a new physical body.
If you liked the story, please subscribe and like. Till tomorrow.